So firstly, congratulations, the Archies.
Thank you.
And it was an interesting experience that we're going to obviously look into, Zoya. But the first thing that I thought of when when we were watching the film was what was the biggest challenge? Was it setting something in 1964, it's your first period film, among 8,500 people in a town called Riverdale, making that believable? Was that the biggest thing in terms of you taking up this project in the first place?
No, I think I had very very good people to make that happen. And I think the biggest challenge was figuring out how to keep the original Archies and put them in a context in India, where to set it, how to set it. I think that was the biggest challenge. Once we knew what we were doing, then it went smooth sailing because we had the crew that came in, and then we knew what we were doing. We knew what to research, where to research, how to
Like in
adapt
terms
it.
of reference points, like where is this town? Where is Riverdale? I mean, we've seen portions of, like, say, Landor is a bit like
Yes.
Riverdale would be.
Makalski
Right.
Ganj,
Right.
Landor, bits of Shimla. So a lot of the colonial architecture from there,
Right.
all the architecture in Ooty, so hill stations basically. And those have retained that architecture. So taking that and taking a bit of the Archie comic, taking a bit of Enid Blyton, the storybook world,
Right.
and putting it all together with.
Like, would you have thought of it as episodic when it came to you as an offer to direct? Like, because that's what Archie's is, right? Every comic strip is a different episode each time.
Yeah.
Did you think of it episodically, or you thought it would be a film?
No, because when Netflix offered it to us, they wanted a feature.
Yeah,
Okay.
our
So we
brief was
just
always a feature.
So we just we never thought of it as a series. We just went.
Right. And what if you would, like, sort of had 17-year-olds from present day into the Archie? Would that have been a completely different challenge? Because you need to know Gen Z then. You need to understand, like, their lingo and their thought processes. Would that be in a completely different world? Is that something you considered?
No. We didn't want to do it contemporary because Riverdale has been done.
Yeah.
And Riverdale, and it's done really well. And so we didn't want to do the same thing. The brief that we got from Archie was they wanted the original wholesome
Period
old
experience.
Yes, they wanted the
Right.
old school space. They wanted a wholesome film. They wanted
more
it
than period, they wanted it to be
wholesome.
Right.
And for us, both of us were huge Archie's fans. So I think when we were connecting to that, we were connecting to a time in our lives where all this, this digital noise and all that around
So you
us
both
wasn't
obviously
there.
grew up with the Archie comics like the rest of India,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, what was that? Who's your favorite among the lot? Do you have separate favorites, or is it?
You can't have just one favorite. I mean, like
Yeah, you
it
can.
changes.
I think Jughead is my favorite.
Yeah,
Mine
Jughead's
too.
his
Okay,
favorite.
there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it changes.
Right.
And sometimes, even within a story, you like one character more
Yeah.
than the other, even though the other may be your favorite.
Right.
So I mean, I just like the comic.
So, it's interesting when you go around casting for these multiple roles of especially actors you've never seen before, at least not on screen. You're not just casting for the voicing parts, right? They're also doing things, it's quasi-musical. They're also doing things that involves other skills.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Agastya, that's Archie, like, he's sliding on the floor.
Yeah.
That is something you either can do or you can't do.
Yeah.
Is that something that you were conscious of when you're auditioning for the parts?
Yeah. You were
So
auditioning.
what was the audition like? Did you ask them to also?
No. You
Okay.
had to see. I mean, they went to dance. They went into like a dance space
Right.
and stuff. But the thing is, you also know if there's some aptitude or not, because it's not like you have to. They trained also. They learned how to do things.
But some just may not learn regardless, right? I mean, not all
Then
of us
you
is
have
a
to
dancer.
recast, I
Then
guess.
you have to recast.
You have to recast.
Yeah. Then you have to recast. Yeah.
The reason why I'm also asking this question is because you made a film with absolute newcomers in 2023. Your first film was about an absolute newcomer who enters show business, but that was in 2009. If you were to make a Luck by Chance in terms of how much the world has changed since then, what would that story be like in terms of entering showbiz? Because there are these 7 main parts who are entering showbiz now, technically speaking, with this film.
Right.
Whereas that one was about that one guy, that's Farhan's
Right.
character, who enters show business. How much has the world changed since then?
It's hugely different. Hugely different. That was a time when corporates were entering the industry. It reflects that age. And now, I mean, things like the media has changed completely. Social media,
right,
everything. There was
never there
nothing
at the
there.
time.
No, there were no multiplexes really. I mean, it had just started.
Little bit, yeah.
It's a very, very different time. So, I mean, if I had to revisit it and rewrite it, I don't know what it would be. But thematically, it would again be about success and failure. I think because that's what the film's about.
Right.
You know, how do you define success and failure, and is your self-worth determining that? You
Hmm.
know, so that's what the film is. The rest is just backdrop.
Fair.
Yeah, and I think the
You know,
backdrop would change, but
the backdrop would
essentially the
change.
The point
story
will
would have
remain the
been
Yeah,
the
the
same.
point
same.
will
Yeah.
remain the same.
You know, I think what I loved, and which became obviously iconic over time with Lag By Chance, is the time is the part where Shah Rukh Khan enters and he tells Farhan's character,
Yeah,
you know, whatever happens in your life, don't forget those who knew you when
yeah.
you're a nobody, right? That's obviously a line you wrote for Shah Rukh to say in the film.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure you had nobody else in mind when you were writing it.
Yeah, because you kind of also see it with him.
Hmm.
I think he's quite rooted.
Hmm.
His you know, his old friends are still his friends. The people that gave him a break, the
Hmm.
people that stood by him, he stands by.
Right.
I think you know, he was quite that guy. So
Hmm.
it just came with him.
So when, say, for instance, Shah Rukh's daughter debuts in the film,
Mm.
and you already have access to Shah Rukh, obviously, and you have all these young people debuting in the movie, would you get Shah Rukh Khan to give them a pep talk? Because that's something that you should do. Because you know he's the guy who's like done it over 30 years. There are all these new
No,
people doing their first
no,
film.
I wouldn't. I
No,
mean, no, because I've worked with I mean, I worked with Siddhant Chaturvedi. I've worked with various newcomers.
right?
You don't call in someone and say, give them a pep talk. You just don't do that.
No, because it's like in his daughter's there, and
You
so
know,
you know, did he ever visit the set though?
no,
Never.
no,
Right?
no,
Did he see the rushes?
no,
Okay.
no.
And you obviously never called him to give that Chuck the India pep talk, guys.
No,
Okay.
but that's my job. I can't give my job to someone else. That's what I'm meant to do.
You know, it's interesting you said whatever you did about Luck by Chance, because that's one thing that's so amazing about you, Zoya, about all your films. You're able to put one word or one line to what the point of that film is,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So you said Luck by Chance is about
Self-esteem.
self-esteem. Dil Dhadakne Do would be about projecting.
Yes.
Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara was about
Carpe diem.
Carpe Diem, seize the day. What is the Archies about?
Idealism.
Idealism. Explain.
Idealism, like
Simpler times.
simpler times.
Less is more
Less is
times.
more times.
Mm.
What do we value? What is ideal? What is good for our soul? What are the things that should be valued? And the things that, okay, yeah, we can have them, but not at the cost of this. I think idealism.
Mm.
And it's also that age when you're a teenager where you think you can change the world.
Yeah.
It's set in the 60s, which was that era
Mm.
where people really believed that peace, love,
Mm.
you know, things of value. And yeah, uh, even the art, even the setting, even the way Suzanne has seen the film,
Mm.
even the fact that the gardens are the way they are,
Mm.
it's ideal. You know, it's all idealism. Fresh air, sunshine.
So before you started to write it, is
Mm.
that a word you gave yourself? This is what it's going to be.
No.
Or is something you arrive at during the
You,
writing process?
I think you arrive at when you speak.
Hmm.
I think you
Yeah.
arrive at something when you're talking. You arrive at what this is meant to be. We knew what we knew is that we wanted the innocence. What we
Hmm.
knew is that we wanted the simplicity. We knew what we wanted to value in the film. And then when you start building it, and then you realize that this is what the word is, then everything goes to that word.
Hmm.
You know, it's like when you're a kid and you open a little storybook
Hmm.
and you get into that world. It's an imagination. You get into that world, and somehow it's just everything's perfect and everything's ideal and everything works out.
Hmm.
And
And there's a moral of the story in the
yes,
end.
yes, and
Yeah.
it's like a little fable like quality, and that is what we wanted to capture and put on. I mean, it's for kids, so it's for everyone, but
Right.
in a simpler sense.
Right. Because that's the other thing that you have, Zoya, and you've articulated in the past about how there are certain rules you make for yourself when you're
Mhm.
shooting a film. For instance, Dil Dhadakne Do had a rule where you would go mid-shot and
Yeah.
maybe long, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Because it's from the perspective of
Yeah.
Pluto the
Yeah.
dog.
I mean, we went to close-ups only when the characters were this close.
Right.
So, I mean, you couldn't shoot it any other way. So, if it was a kiss scene or if it was Anil Kapoor grabbing Rahul Bose, those were the times when we had to go close because
Mm.
that's when otherwise, no, we just didn't.
And you decided not to shoot blue tarpaulin
Yeah.
in Gully Boy.
Yeah.
Firstly, why?
I don't like that color.
It's unesthetic.
I don't like the color.
No, and I think it wasn't part of her palette.
It wasn't part of my
Mm.
palette. Suzanne doesn't like the color. I didn't like the color. It's we love blue, but it's
Yeah.
that particular blue. And
view that you see when you're like landing in
yeah,
Bombay.
yeah.
Are there times when either of you was like completely like complimented each other in a way that you were like really happy with a particular scene, like you were stuck, and that's the scene that we got to see on the screen? Is there anything
Yeah.
that you can remember, Zoya, that
Many.
like, okay, that's Reema's amazing line or amazing
Many,
scene?
many.
Which one would it be?
Many. I think Safeena, the character.
Okay.
Because Safeena actually is a character that Reema wrote in a script that she wrote herself, and it was in another movie. And I read that movie. I fell in love with her. And then when we started writing Gully Boy, and that film didn't happen, and I was like, "Can I just take Safeena?" So she was like,
Take
"Yeah,
her
why
out of
not?"
there.
So we took Safeena and we planted her into Gully Boy, and then obviously adapted Safeena to
Right. To
Gully
that
Boy.
world, right.
Yeah. So I mean,
Did Safeena live in the same area in your
Safeena
original
was
Safeena? Was
for
she
Dharavi only.
from
Yeah, yeah,
Dharavi?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, it was a
yeah,
Dharavi
yeah.
character.
So
yeah.
that
I mean, I think that's why Zoya suggested it, because obviously we had to tweak
we
the
had to
character a
tweak the
bit, but she
character.
really into the story, the world, everything.
Yeah. So
And
we
was she
just
in
took
love
her.
with a guy like him?
Yeah, pretty much.
And
Not like
in,
him. Some like, but she was
but
in
in
love.
was
love
in
in the
love
same
with him.
way. In
Yeah,
love in
yeah,
the same
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's what defines the
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
And then there was Gully Boy that you
Yeah.
did without Farhan in it. Firstly, did you think of casting Farhan ever for Gully Boy? Because he's also into music.
No.
It
No.
never occurred to you?
No. It didn't occur to me because it was written for it was another vibe. You know, I didn't see Farhan in that. I
Okay.
mean, otherwise he'd be in it.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I saw him in it, he'd be in
Yeah.
it. You know, and I think it was just Ranveer. It was just meant to be Ranveer.
When you were
And
writing
was,
it, that's who you
yeah,
thought
yeah,
of.
it was
Yeah.
written for him.
And he was a college kid,
It was written for him.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.